Welcome back to the SCIF. As you can see, I am here by myself right now, but it's going to change. Chris is running a little bit late, so he should be joining us momentarily. Anyways, so I am Matt. We are the Green Beret Life. We are a 501c3. Please go check out our website, thegreenberetlife.com. We do firearms training, bunch of different types of training. It all goes to a good cause because everything goes to get veterans outdoors and veterans families, first responders families. So check us out. If you're interested in any specialized training, you can reach out to us and we can see if we can make it happen. If you have enough people, we can even come to you. But please reach out to us. You can get a hold of us at thegreenberetlife@gmail.com. And just send us a message. You have any questions, if you're interested in joining. We do get quite a few people every once in a while that reach out and ask about joining the military, what our take on it, and we'll give you our opinion. We're not saying our opinion is the only opinion, obviously. If you followed us for any period of time, one of the regular topics that we keep hitting on is that there's multiple ways to do things. So please check out the website, leave a like. Please go and join us over at Rumble and Odysee as well. We're the Green Beret Life over there. Please join us there and give us a like or a fire or whatever they have over there for those things. We're trying to migrate off of YouTube. We're on here for a little period of time and then we'll get off because we have no freedom of speech on YouTube. YouTube will limit what we can say, and if we go past that limit, they will strike us. They've done it multiple times already. And not only when they do that, they tend to go digging for other information. And we all know that anything that's associated with Google, if we step off the approved narrative, we are going to get smacked in one way or another, which is really odd because the partnerships that they've had with the federal government sort of precludes them from doing that. They don't have a right. They can no longer rest on their laurels and sit back and say, we're a private company. We can do whatever we want. They really can't. They really can't. They've taken money from the federal government. That means they've taken your and my money, which is taxpayer money. And when they do things like this, they no longer reserve the right to say we're a private corporation and we can basically stomp all over your First Amendment rights of free speech, but they do. And until we get some people that are willing to go after them, and we've taken a few steps in that right direction this week. We didn't get Jim Jordan. I was hoping we'd get Jim Jordan. Then after Jim Jordan was out, I was hoping Byron Donalds. We didn't get Byron Donalds, but we got some guy that I didn't know a whole lot about, to be honest with you. And he was kind of a backbencher. But when you look at his history and the things that he's done, he's extremely based. He seems to be extremely pro-Trump as well. Trump seems to like him. Trump reiterated support the day they were doing the vote, which was a few days ago. But we finally seem like we have a pretty good Speaker of the House. And he seems pretty set on following what was set forward and some of the points that Matt Gaetz and the others were trying to get McCarthy to follow. Spending bills that are basically a single point instead of lumping everything together, saying there might have been something that you really, really wanted, but they were stuffing some bullshit in there too. And in order to get what you really, really wanted, you had to accept everything. And it was leading to $2 trillion deficits every year, which has led to the point where we are in so much money trouble that we're on the brink of collapse. And yes, folks, our financial situation is on the brink of collapse. We're on the brink of collapse. And we really have to buckle down now and try to save our country. We know they've allowed millions of people in our country. We say this every week. You guys all know it. And nothing seems to have really been done to slow it down. In fact, we hear the National Guard is going to go down there. People get excited, right? the state of Texas steps up and starts putting barriers across the river to try to keep the flow down of migrants coming across. Then they put up concertina wire and barbed wire barriers, and the federal government goes in and removes these or sues the state to remove them and starts cutting up the barriers, including the National Guard cutting the barriers up to allow illegals across, where people are cheering for the illegals coming across into our country. This is the destruction of our country. This is putting our country back into a third world status. Not that we were ever really considered a third world, but we're going there right now because we're importing the third world into our country. And if you look at just the official numbers that we know, it's somewhere around 8 million, but we know that's probably double because these are just the people that we know that have come across seeking asylum. It's not the gotaways or the people that we don't see. That's part of the reason for the concertina barriers and the barriers across the Rio Grande. We know that they're all coming across with little multicolored bracelets on. These bracelets dictate how much they owe specific cartels. These individuals are dispersed throughout the country to do basically the work of the cartels. And what is the cartels' work? Human trafficking, drugs, more. So you can only look at the border in one way, as intentional destruction to our country. It's the only way you can look at it, because that's exactly what it is. Not only are they bringing people across that we don't know who they are, we're getting people from all over the world. And quite often we tend to think, oh, it's just Latin American migrants coming across. No, these are migrants coming from all over the globe. Ask yourself how they're getting here. I mean, when they were talking about people showing up at the border that were making 2,000-mile treks on their feet, families, right? Yet they're showing up fat with the latest iPhones and everything else with tiny children. Common sense, with blue-collar logic on here, would tend to say, are these people coming up on their own? Are they really walking 2,000? How many people can walk 2,000 miles, let alone be overweight, walk 2,000 miles with luggage and tiny children at the same time? Bullshit. That's not happening. So these people coming from different parts of the world, how are they getting here, folks? How are they getting here? I think most of you have an idea of how they're getting here. We've outlined some of the individuals, but you also have to look at some of these NGOs, this new term that we like to, that's not necessarily a new term, but it's a term out there that does highlight non-governmental organizations that are partnered up with the government. So that means they have to be in these countries, right? Encouraging people to come, facilitating their travel to here, arranging transportation. This is logic. If you're trying to figure out how these people are able to do this, you have to see getting them that phone before they even get here, because that phone is what? It's a little computer. It's a way we can identify who is who, keep track, give them information, tell them what to say in their own language, get them attorneys, right? We've got these non-governmental organizations. We need to find out who every single one of them is and what they have done. We need it. And this is our right, because our taxpayer money is funding this. You bring these people up here, you bring them across the border, they automatically get allegedly $2,300 a month as soon as they step across the border. We're not looking at anything. We're not looking at their health. They can come in and be bringing all sorts of diseases. They're going to expose your children to diseases. They've been doing this since they've been blasting immigrants through our borders. This is why you're starting to see reemergence of diseases that were eliminated in our country over 50 years ago. Measles, mumps, tuberculosis, active tuberculosis, folks. That's a doozy. But there's no cure for tuberculosis and other diseases as well. You're seeing this. And there's a complete disregard for you. And then you ask, okay, what are the purposes? There's multiple reasons that people in power would want mass illegal immigration to our country. The simple things when you first look at it are cheap labor, right? And this is not necessarily a left and right thing, because Who wants cheap labor? Primarily the right. Businesses. They want to be able to hire cheap labor. I talked about this before, about they will bring in migrants from the third world, Muslim migrants from the third world, and put them in the middle of rural Minnesota or Wisconsin. And they basically bring them into these towns where there is a factory, like a turkey plant or a cheese factory or dairy or many others. They work out deals with the state, the federal government, the cheese or turkey factory, which was built there to basically provide employment for the locals that live in the area. But when they're offered these third world migrants to come in, they will end up paying them like minimum wage. And you're going to say, who would work for minimum wage? Well, wait. This is where the state or the federal government steps in, and they provide a welfare package for these people. So these people get a welfare package that is so massive, right, that working class people can't obtain what they often get in these welfare packages. And then they go and work for the company that's supposed to be employing local population. They'd have to pay the local population a fair wage, not minimum wage, because they're not getting supplemented. And then they ruin the culture of that town. They start to run amok in that town. Crime goes up in that town. And then your social services get taxed because they tend to put these people in housing that are very in the same proximity. Social services go up. Then there's a big, because of our social issues today, there is a big racial component to all of this, and they tend to get extra protections because they're migrants from the third world and minorities. And they often, as you can see in many other places, people don't want to say it because they get accused of being racist. It has nothing to do with being racist at all. And we've made the point that we are more than open for people that, from all walks of life, that want to come to America to be an American and work their way, not come here to get a handout and to change our culture. You come here because you want to assimilate into our culture. And we accept people with open arms from all walks of life, different religions, different races, different cultures, right? You want to come here. If you want to come here, you should want to come here to become an American and embrace our form of life. Not bring your form of life over here and try to force us to change to your ways while you get a benefit paid for by our taxpayer money. But this is what they do. So that's the first motivation. What's the other motivation? Well, typically we've had the Democrat Party that has relied upon certain demographics that basically they've basically co-opted. And you can see going back to the 60s where they got the men out of the house. They basically destroyed the nuclear family. And then they offered more money, more kids you had, provided a man wasn't in the house, right? And now you become dependent on the federal government. And when you become dependent on the government, you now, well, pretty much the handouts that you're getting, you're going to do everything you can to keep on getting those handouts. So you will vote the way they tell you to vote. And this has been indoctrinated into multiple generations, and it's now changing. I did say several years ago that I believed that the based patriot minority population in this country will be a major factor leading to us to liberate our country and bring it back to the way the country was founded. And I stick by that comment. But what they've done with that is they basically said, okay, because now this demographic that we've had vote for us no matter what for all of these years, they're starting to go off the reservation. 20% African Americans, 40% Hispanics are supporting Donald Trump, are supporting America First policies, don't want our country changed. So what the Democrats and the left are trying to do is replace those voters with new ones. So we're sort of getting into an area here that I want to continue on, but I can't continue on here on YouTube without shutting it off. So before we shut YouTube off, I am going to make a plea once again. Please come over and sign up at Rumble and subscribe to us at Rumble and Odysee. Rumble looks like it's going to be our primary channel. So please come over there, take part in the conversation. Once Chris gets on here, he can follow the conversation, talk about your comments that have been made. And because I like to include that with everybody. So I'm going to shut off YouTube right now. I have to put on my glasses to see this damn thing. Getting old sucks. And I hope to see you guys over there. So please, we're under the Green Beret life. Come and join us over at Rumble and Odysee, and we'll see you there in a moment.